Hey, welcome to SHOWstudio's live panel discussion, fully digital for the first time. This season, experts from all parts of the industry will discuss and debate the most important subjects affecting the fashion industry. Today, we're going to be discussing racism in the industry and fashion's role in activism. My name is Antoine Gregory. I'm a fashion consultant and founder of Black Fashion Fair, and these are my panelists.
I'll go first.
Who wants to start?
Nandi. I'm the assistant fashion editor at Essence Digital and Print. So yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Hi, I'm Shelby Ivey Christie. I'm a fashion and costume historian, and I'm just really glad to be here. Thank you for having me, guys.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anifa Mvuemba, and I'm the fashion designer and creative director for Anifa, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you guys all for being here. So I just wanted to start out the discussion with asking you guys, we'll start with Nandi and then go to Shelby and then Anifa, just how racism and I guess a lot of industry bias has affected you personally and then professionally.
At first, I'm going to be completely honest, I really just kind of went after Black publications. My first job was at BET, and then I quickly into Tour, which obviously is not a Black-owned publication, but there were some Black women at leadership. And at first, I really didn't think it affected me because I went straight to Essence after that. But then I started to realize all of those times that you were applying for jobs and you were qualified and you didn't get it and you were wondering why, or you were right there at the cusp and you didn't get it, because there are many jobs that I didn't get in this industry, and you wondered why. There's a play on if that was racism within the industry, and I don't think I realized that till honestly everyone started coming out and telling their stories, because I have been blessed to have Black women wrap their arms around me in the industry. But there are times where I didn't get that job and I never knew why. And to see everybody kind of coming out with these stories now, it's like, oh wait, that was definitely the reason. So that's kind of, I think, where I've been affected at is like waiting this long to find step into my career when that should have happened, I feel like, a few years ago. And I definitely think a power structure play was the result of that.
For me, it definitely started early on in my career. So getting started in fashion, I actually interned at Condé Nast, which no longer has an internship program because of some of the racism in the industry and like the mistreatment of interns. So early on, that was like my experience. And I feel like throughout my fashion experience, like on the corporate side, when I was, working in the industry in those kinds of roles, the mean girl culture, being the only on a lot of teams, similar to Nandi, like going through interview processes, getting all the way through the end, getting ghosted, just that systemic kind of like experience, not feeling valued in a lot of my roles that I occupied, and not feeling like anyone could relate to like, my ideas and thoughts around Black content and Blackness in fashion. So that was definitely my experience.
I could say for me, just being a self-taught designer who didn't go to like one of the great fashion schools in New York or, the big fashion cities, just trying to even get into the industry, I felt like it has been extremely hard because I'm a Black woman. And, I see other races and I see them even starting after me, maybe doing similar things, and then they take off like almost instantly. And I remember one time I actually had a buyer's meeting with a department store, a very popular one. And I mean, I put my blood, sweat, and tears in these pieces, like blood, sweat, and tears. And I remember going into the office, and obviously the buyers were white, and they were just like, chewing up my collection, telling me that I should change the colors. But I'm just like, these colors work for everyone, Black women specifically. This is my target market. And then they told me that my collection wasn't developed enough. And I mean, when I left the office, I was distraught, like completely distraught. And I'm just like, wow, like this collection is so good. It's so good. And unfortunately, they didn't buy it. I ended up seeing who they picked, and I was like, okay, obviously. So that was like my experience.
I think, well, to piggyback off what you're saying is that a lot of the times these buyers are white and their target audience are white female. So when you come to a meeting, you say, these colors work on Black women, and that's not their audience, and they automatically don't see a space for you in their shops. And how often do you go into a bar, not any longer, but a Barney's or a Bergdorf's, even in Neiman Marcus, and you see Black designers? You just really don't. And there's so many Black designers. So the fact that you can walk into a store and see several brands by a lot of time white women who were probably bored and wanted to do something, start a brand, and they have prime real estate at Bergdorf's next to Actress, or like it just doesn't make sense. And then you guys have to fight for the same space to be put somewhere else on a rack. I remember before Barney's closed, Martine Rose had a small rack of like 4 pieces on it. And it's like, how do you expect her brand to grow at your store when you barely bought into it? So now these 4 pieces that are here, they may not be the best pieces or the pieces that the clients are going to want. So now it looks like she's not selling. And now next season you don't carry her because you bought 4 pieces. Like that, there's even a disconnect. There was like, you guys have to also support emerging Black designers and buy them and put them in your stores.
I'm sorry.
No, just gonna continue.
I went to a CFDA workshop with a bunch of Black designers, and something that someone told me that I didn't know was like, you kind of have to fight for your designs to be on display as well. So I was like, wow, there's one layer and then there's another layer into the whole getting into a department store thing. So that's something that I actually didn't know about.
No, yeah, exactly. I've been like a visual merchandise coordinator for United States and Canada for like a very, very like popular brand. And even still, it's like, I'm befriending the in-store visuals. I'm befriending the store managers to make sure that we're on mannequins, that we get in the windows, that the retail team on the floor, like the sales forces, are actually picking up our merchandise. So I could imagine how hard that is for a Black designer who doesn't have the same infrastructure as a billion-dollar brand. Like it makes it much more difficult. And even my experiences in fashion, I went to FIT. Most of the times I was the only Black boy, the Black kid in my class. I had to fight for the ideas that I wanted to show Black talent or to speak about Black designers that no one knew, or sitting in the class and speaking about Andre Leontali and no one knowing who he was. And I went from that to interning, and I would be an intern and be the only Black person, to working for billion-dollar companies and being the only Black person. They're like, a lot of times we are the diversity around us, and like that doesn't work. And like we can't continue to have fashion and work in that manner. So I guess my next question is, how do you guys feel that you can be like leaders of the industry, like going forward?
I think for me right now, it's doing what everybody is not doing. So what we're seeing a lot, first of all, Essence, we've always covered Black people. I mean, that's what I do like day in and day out. So over the last 2 weeks, we've been seeing a lot of publications coming out with these best PK products by Black designers, whatever the case it may be. And for me, that's a little misleading because yes, you can do this listicle, but like, have you guys invested in Black designers? Are you giving them features? Are you giving them print space? And like, how much print space are you giving them when something goes to print and you can pick it up at CVS? We're still not seeing ourselves represented. So to do a listicle is almost dismissive to the entire movement, because it's like, what is your investment after this listicle of putting up 55 Black owned brands, So for me, it's the listicles that I have put up this week, they've literally reposted from things that we've done years ago, because just to let people know that we have been doing it, but also just continuing to invest in Black talent, like features, putting them in print, making sure that they are seen beyond just like swiping away at something and then they're gone. So that's something that I've been really trying to do, being like a journalist and a writer, is just making sure that, in 3 or 4 years, we can still find these articles on these Black designers. Because I referenced this a while ago, but Dapper Dan, when they referenced and pulled his piece when Gucci sent it down the runway, we were able to say, hey, that was Dapper Dan's piece. You guys stole it. But when Dapper Dan when he was coming up, he didn't have those writers and those journalists to like really back him and like, you know, put it in print so that now we can open up and we can see his atelier that he had 20 years ago that got raided, you know, like where are those photos? Where's that piece on that? And so that's kind of what my mission is, making sure that 20 years from now we can see Anifa in a magazine, we can see Shelby in a magazine, we can see you, Antoine, in a magazine, because that matters right now, you know.
Very well said.
Yeah.
Shelby.
For me, it's documenting Blackness and like just pulling the thread through from the past to the present, and making sure that Blackness is well documented, not only in like the academic space, but in like the greater conversation around art. You know, I'm studying to be a curator. I'm in my MA program now in costume studies, and similar to your experience, Antoine, when I'm in my classes, it's only me. I'm the only Black person in my program. The program is from a very white perspective. So, you know, just making sure I speak up about our legacy. And for me, it's really about like going back and doing the historical work of bringing forward, whether it be designers, Black designers from the past who had a footprint and an impact, you know, looking at fashion through the lens of race, class, and culture, and making sure that people understand that not only is fashion very tied to those things and it intersects with, you know, finance and with, you know, the market and all of these things, but also, you know, Blackness and specifically Black contributions to fashion have implications that have echoed out into the atmosphere in the fashion landscape, and making sure people see that, you know, a lot of times I feel like we are lost in the greater conversation when we talk about contributions. Things are inaccurately attributed to our white counterparts, and you know, I'm just trying to do my part to really document it, echoing what Nandi said, making sure that, you know, 100 years from now, someone can look back and find it, because as you know, in the academic space, everything has to be backed up by sources. And, you know, if it's not in a database, if it's not in an article, you know, the narrative can be whatever someone else wants it to be. You know, it goes from, that's how you get boxer braids from cornrows, you know, someone not making sure and taking care of the culture. So that's really what I'm trying to do, just make sure we're well documented, start those conversations and get the information out there.
I wanted
Absolutely.
to Shelby's point, like Shelby, what Shelby does, I'm gonna gash you for a minute, is so important because like when you see these articles, they pull from white fashion historians, and that's okay, but where is that Black history? Where is showing that some of these European designers were influenced by Black designers? Like we don't have, there's literally very few sources that can give us like Black luxury fashion. And so I just think like Shelby, what you're doing is really important because like we need somewhere to pull from, and we need a Black woman who's providing like accurate, creditable fashion facts to pull from. Like I've even pulled your tweets just in my article because it's like that's more important to me than like something that I can find that's not coming from a Black woman, you know. So
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that, and I want to shout out. I'm not sure what her name is. She's watching this, or someone please send me her name. But I came across the other day on Instagram a Black fashion database. A Black woman is working to build one, and I've been meaning to reach out to her. But if anyone, you know, needs resources, you know, definitely go to that page, Black Fashion Database of another Black curator.
Ricky Bird.
Okay.
Is it Ricky Bird?
I think so. She's a Black fashion curator.
Well. Yes.
And I had stumbled on the database, but I didn't know, I couldn't find like who. I just saved it on Instagram. Like, let me come back to this. But if you're ever looking for, I've been meaning to go into the database. I haven't gone, but I think that's a good resource too. And she's doing, you know, she's doing that great work too. So I'm going to check it out, and I implore everyone else to check it out too.
I think even with like Shelby, with your threads, I think even with myself, like I tended to, I stopped doing it because I felt like a lot of white publications would take from these threads, especially yours, and then you're not getting your credit. You're not getting like the clicks to your to the work that you did. And it's like we can't continue to allow that to happen. And like even with Anifa, with her 3D show, which was amazing, it was revolutionary. And Forbes did an article about it. And you guys can see this article here, but immediately, maybe like a week later, they had put up another article that Prada was doing the same thing, and they were going to be the first ones to do a 3D show. It was like, you guys literally just had an article up saying that this woman, a Black woman, was the first person to do this, and how quickly we erased that. Like, we can't allow that to happen.
Yeah. It was crazy. I think, it was also insulting, not only to myself, my team, other Black designers, but also the Black journalists that actually wrote the article. The other journalists could have just, simply did a fact check. But it was unbelievable. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think when we all saw that, like, I saw Shelby on Twitter, and we were all just like, what is going on? And sometimes I think for me this week, honestly, I had to take a step back from Twitter and actually like put my money where my mouth is, which is in the essence of publication. And, I was like, when that happened, I was like, you know what? Let me actually get an article going and really call this out. And luckily I had the support from leadership to be like, no, go ahead, call them out. And I think, Anifa, that was something that I think we were all just like not surprised about, but then really like, are y'all serious right now?
I mean, I feel like we can't, like, we all deserve to see ourselves, and we all deserve to be inspired. And the people who come after us, the kids that come after us, like, we need to make sure that we leave a guide for them so they don't have to fight the same battles we did. So when you do something like that, it says to this kid who wants to be a designer that maybe there's no space for me here. And like, that's the thing that I don't want to happen. And that's why, like, we did band together and say, you know what, you cannot do this to this Black woman who worked her butt off to accomplish something like this. You can't do that. And I think we need to continue to hold brands, publications, we need to continue to hold these institutions accountable, even after this. Black Lives Matter, yes, but put your money where your mouth is. I'm going to see action.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think,
go ahead.
But being Black in fashion comes at such a heavy cost, and I don't think it should.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, after the show, obviously we were really like happy. We're getting all this press and so much genuine support. And then, George Floyd happened, and then the Black community globally is mourning. And then you have this article that comes out and it's completely tone deaf. And we're just like, you know what? I don't even know what to do anymore. I don't even know how to feel anymore. It's just like a Black woman in America, period. It's just like 1 minute you feel empowered, 1 minute you feel, like you can conquer the world. The next thing you know, you're like, you want to fight somebody. Yeah, you want to cry. Yeah. Or you want to cry. I remember after me and Shelby did the interview with DAP, and we went to grab a bite, and I was just asking her, I was like, how is it like being a Black woman in corporate? And she was just sharing her stories, and I'm just like, this is unbelievable. Yeah. Like, it's everywhere, all the time.
It's exhausting. Like, this week I finally decided to like speak up about my own experience in fashion, and like, it was not an easy decision to make, but similar to what you all were saying about like, in the instance where we all banded together around Anifa and like that total like erasure of her work in Forbes, I think that same thing is kind of echoing throughout the industry, and we're able to harness our voices. And I think it's shaking the table, because historically, right, like, we would be scared to be blackballed. It's still a real issue for a lot of us in the industry, but I think it's important that more of us are trying to use our voices, or, there are people behind the scenes who maybe can't use their voice publicly, who are doing the work or doing the articles. And I think, that's the kind of thing that's really going to move the needle, to show people like, hey, this is different now. Like, we don't have to rely so heavily on the white nepotism and having the white besties to navigate these spaces. We've harnessed our own Black nepotism now and our own Black networks. And like, we're going to speak up. And when you do something, foolish to our community, we now have a voice, and we're going to harness it. I think maybe a generation or two before us didn't have that camaraderie, or it was so disjointed in the industry because you might have been peppered in one or two or three of you, and you may not have been able to connect across, you know, publications or across brands. Whereas like now I feel like we're really harnessing our collective power. And I feel like that's really where the impact is, you know,
Right.
the camaraderie and just gathering around each other and pointing out when things are not right and pointing out when things are right. Like I think we do a good job of celebrating one another, you know, too. I feel like in the fashion industry, again, maybe 10 years ago, that wasn't a thing, you know, it was still very like tokenized, and, you know, people didn't really uplift each other, or again, they may not have even known each other across, you know, the other side of the fence. But I do think now that we are harnessing our voices and really speaking up, is saying to the establishment, whether we realize it or not, hey, when you come at us with some foolishness, we have enough leverage now to call you out. And it's not, we're not.
Yes.
And just to continue to build that leverage that we have. So I mean, so Anifa, like, what are your views on like becoming, like, what do you feel like you could do as a leader in the industry to make sure that we do continue to have leverage and that we do continue to make space for each other?
For the longest time, you know, coming up, like I said earlier, I didn't go to fashion school. I didn't have the resources. So I pretty much was winging it. I had to like build my own blueprint. And I've been seeking validation from this industry that was never built for me to begin with. And it was at the top of this year when I was talking to my team, I was just like, I'm sick of this. I was like, I'm tired. I was like, I'm going to create my own table, and I'm going to be bringing other designers with me. So I actually started an initiative earlier this year for emerging designers where I pretty much tell them everything I know. I don't hold anything back. I have a fashion business course. I also manufacture and sample for designers as well that don't know where to go, don't know where to source, and just trying to help where I can, because ultimately, you know, we have to help the people that are coming up as well. Like once you get in, you have to help someone else. So that's really like what I'm trying to do.
I think a lot of the time we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the education, like the fancy education background. So to say, you know, I'm able to like teach a business course, I'm able to help other designers get samples, because really that's the hardest part. I think when you're going to be a designer, yeah, you don't know where to go to get things produced. You don't have access to production. It's like, if you can offer that to someone, you've already put us in such a better place.
Right.
Yeah. Antoine, you had tweeted the other day that brands have to earn the right to say Black Lives Matter. And I think that's so important, because we're just seeing so much performative activism right now, which, and you know, if you think it's great, think it's great. If you don't, you don't. But it's one of those things where I think finding genuine support right now and all this clouded activism is so hard, because every brand right now is pro-Black, if you ask them. So it's like, it's just like, how? You go ahead.
No, I guess that's my next question is, do you think these brands, like these mass market brands, these large corporations, or even these publications, should be political? Should they have that voice, or should they remain neutral?
I think, so I think when you don't say anything, that's when you're not doing your part. Because in journalism, and you guys all know as storytellers and people who make, you know, art out of what you do, you are reporting what's happening in the news. So when Anifa had her show, if brands didn't report that, although everybody was going crazy over it, you're deliberately ignoring that. And the brands that didn't post it deliberately ignored that, you know? So it's like, I think you don't, even if you don't know where your stance is, you know, I guess that's okay. But to not say anything at all is where I kind of am like, okay, you're choosing not to say anything and you're choosing not to report on it. And that's not media. Media reports on current news and what's happening and what people are talking about. So the brands that kind of ignore what's going on right now, it shows that they were never for us. I mean, were they ever really for us? But in this moment, it shows that they're not for us, and that they're choosing to kind of ignore it. It's a big, huge situation going on right now.
I definitely agree with that. I also feel like it becomes a thing where we have to continue. Like, if you want to Black Lives Matter your social media feed up, okay, I'm going to see that same energy 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now. And it's up to us, even with having voices like on social media and in the industry, to continue like to hold these brands accountable. So we can get off this SHOWstudio discussion, but we also need to make sure that when we come back, we still see Black faces.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we have to make sure that we continue to hold these brands accountable if they want to have a voice, or if they choose to have a voice, and if they choose not to speak up.
Right, definitely.
I agree. I think also the other side of it is like, what does the internal team look like? Is there going to be consideration for restructure and, rethinking? A lot of these places are legacy brands, they're heritage brands, and they're clinging to that heritage for dear life. The cornerstone of luxury is exclusivity, which means by definition, it's exclusionary to a certain group of people and a certain group of consumers. And historically, that has been people of color and Black people. And it's like, okay, you can post a Black square, but internally, are you leading conversations about how you're going to bring up, the percentage of Black employees within your organization? What about Black employees at the executive level? Are they involved in these decisions that you're making? Are you hiring Black creatives when you have the opportunity to, and Black contractors? Those are the things that I'm also interested in. When I see that Black square, it's like, okay, the feed looks nice. Maybe you started posting more Black people, but what does the internal team look like? Are you employing Black people? Are you listening to them when they are there and making an inclusive and receptive work environment for them when they are there?
I think we need to absolutely demand those things, but I don't want it to be a thing where it becomes like affirmative action for fashion. You know what I'm saying? Like, you also have to make sure, like, obviously hire Black people, hire them in roles of visibility, roles that give them upward mobility, like not in these small roles that are not as visible. And also, when you have your diversity and inclusion boards, that can't be the diversity and inclusion at your company. And for a lot of brands, that is. A lot of times the leaders in those roles are Black women or a black man, but usually it's a Black woman. So just like, it needs to be more than just, you're just hiring people, because we're not looking for like affirmative action. We're looking for actual change.
Yeah,
and that comes from hiring actual real talent that can change the system.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think a lot of us just want to know the truth. Like, just be honest. Tell us what it's been, and tell us what you plan to do moving forward. That's literally it for me. I'm like, okay, cool. I see the Black square. I see all the Black Lives Matter posts, but like, tell us the truth, and then tell us what you plan to do. And I think for me, that's so important. And even now, like, I've been taking major breaks from social media because honestly speaking, it's a little uncomfortable, because I'm just like, I've probably reached out to some of these brands before and never heard anything. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, is this really genuine, or, but yeah, we just want to know the truth and tell us what you plan to do.
Anifa, I wanted to ask you, like, obviously you were popping before this. We all knew about you. But now you're getting like really some mainstream crazy press. How has that been for you? And like you said, some of these brands didn't want to talk to you before. And obviously we want you on every publication. But how has it been for you to try to decide and realize if it's genuine, or do you talk to everybody? How do you pick that?
My assistant actually goes through all the emails, thank God, because it's been a lot, really overwhelming. I probably do like 6 interviews a day or more. And the other day, someone, I'm not going to say the name, but someone from a white publication emailed, and my assistant was telling me what had happened. Basically, she didn't do her research. She didn't do her homework. And my assistant told her to refer to a press release or a different article or interview, whatever. And the journalist got really upset. She was just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe you're an emerging designer and you're turning down interviews. Like, this is the first time in my X amount of years of journalism or whatever. And it just went left, and she handled it.
That is privilege.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
entitlement.
I bet you all the editor or any editor is Black Lives Mattering it up on their social media feed. But that is internal too, even when you're interviewing Black talent. Like, you can't they'll post it on their feed, but they don't even understand how to interview Black talent. Like, it's different. It's you have to passion. You have to show that you're interested in their story, because to just brush over it is privilege within itself, like you guys said.
And it's insight into the way that they see Blackness in the industry, right? That to me reeks of you should be grateful. Like
exactly.
It reeks of, you know, I'm doing something for you. It doesn't even, it gives you insight into, like, they don't think that it's mutually beneficial for you to also be giving them your time and interviewing. They're approaching it as, we're doing something for you, so like, how dare you? And that is really telling about the white privilege and the train of thought. Not all white people in the industry are that way, or all brands, but it gives you an idea of like how they look at Black business people, Black creators in the industry, and designers. Like, I'm sorry that happened.
Yeah.
It's just exhausting. It's just like, okay, what's next? Come on.
I think it's important that I love the fact that your assistant spoke up and said what she had to say, because if we don't like have boundaries, if we don't speak up for ourselves, those things will continue to happen. And I think we're definitely in a place now where we want to speak up. Like I've been loving seeing all you guys on Twitter just like speaking out and just like, you know, just uplifting Black people and Black designers and Black fashion and Black culture. Because if we don't do it, it's not going to be done right. So like, you know, we have a Shelby, we have you at Essence, we have you, a Black designer who's doing great and who's only going to do greater things. So I just want to thank you guys for all of that. Do you guys want to hit on any more points?
I think while we're here, I know we kind of spoke yesterday about this kind of Vogue challenge going around. This of white validation. And I think we can all kind of touch on this pretty quickly, because I know we're running out of time. But I think I wanted to say, while people are watching, like, there are plenty, even besides Essence, publications that focus on Black people, that have continuously focused on Black people. And for us to see these reports and just different things about this publication that has gone viral for a challenge that has not invested in us, I think that is ludicrous. I think that is crazy. And we want to make sure that we're always just investing and trying to get this validation from people that have always invested in us. You know?
Mm-hmm. I think our mindsets have to change. And understanding and knowing what we have. Just seeing the unity in the Black community recently, I'm just like, yo, we can do anything. We can create our own programs, our own organizations, our own publications. Like, we can do it all.
Need our own things.
We just have to, the mindset has to change. The mindset has to change.
And that's not to say that, you know, we want to see Anifa in Vogue. We want to see her on the cover. You know, we want to see that. Not to say we don't. Because of course we would love to see that. But it's just, we just got to understand that if we're going to give that energy to a publication that hasn't gave it to us, make sure you're giving the energy to other Black publications that focus on us too. It's just keeping it fair. It's not about ignoring one and going after the other. It's just, I think right now, just keeping it fair across all boards, because we want to see you and any other Black designer in every publication, you know?
Absolutely.
I think we do a lot of work for holding up whiteness and holding up white publications and white art and whatever it is, and we don't give that back to ourselves. And I think, again, we need to be able to see ourselves. And if we're not uplifting the essence, we're not uplifting Black designers, we're not uplifting Black curators, then we're not, what are we doing? We're not doing the right thing. Because you can do both, but we don't have enough of this. And I think even for me, like with launching like Black Fashion Fair, my goal is to be an educational resource, like for anybody who wants to learn about Black fashion and Black design, but also to create a space for the kids that come up after us, so they can learn how to sew, so they can learn how to sketch, so they can learn how to pattern make, like all these things that I grew up and didn't have. So I think that we're all doing really great work, and we just need to continue to do it, but do it in a way that is uplifting to each other.
It's important to have resources, like even Anifa with you.
Jesus.
It's like with what you're doing and teaching designers, and Antoine and even Shelby, like it's important to have us resources, because I remember being in college and feeling like, okay, how do I apply for a job? How do I even get to New York? like, how do I get in that industry? And hearing different people ask me those questions, it's like, wow, like, those resources are not told to us as they are like our other counterparts. So it's important that I think what the work that you all are doing is great, because I think it's giving, younger generation that hope that they can be in the fashion industry.
Yeah, helping one another is important. I remember I reached out to Antoine because I respect what you do, and this is me just trying to like rebrand and figure out things for Anifa. And I asked him, I was like, hey, give me honest, cold feedback. I just give it to me. And he did. And it was extremely helpful. And I was able to apply that to what I'm currently doing and what I currently have. So just wanted to say thank you for that.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. And I think before any of this, is like the support that I had for you was just like astronomical. So you could have asked me anything and I'm like, okay, got it. Don't worry about it. So like, I'm just so proud of you, and to see like the amount of love that you got on social media and just watch the numbers grow because people were so interested in what you were doing. Like, that just warmed my heart.
Thank you.
So like, I'm really happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think the rallying with Black creatives right now is so like just amazing. Like the Twitter love, like the love that we all send each other from being so far apart. Like, we're still in a pandemic. Let's remember that.
Yeah.
Like we can't just like meet up for drinks in NYC.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Imagine.
I can't wait for the day.
Just imagine.
Yes.
I can't, but everything that y'all are doing, I am inspired by. I know everybody in this panel is inspired by each other. So I think I'm giving everyone their flowers right now. Like, what y'all do is amazing, and we got to keep it up and keep inspiring and lifting.
Yeah, I just want to say, you guys know I stand you individually. I stand you guys on my platforms. Like, I just can't say enough how grateful I am, not only to always see your content, like I said, Nandi, the people champ. Like, anytime we're asking anything that goes on as it relates to Blackness in fashion and news, we don't see other publications covering it. You come in with the link. Like, we know we can always count on you to cover our things and amplify our news. And like, I admire you for that, because I know how hard it is, even at Black publications sometimes, to fight for your stories, and I know that is not easy, especially in a pandemic, when there's all these other news stories that equally deserving of space. So like, I really appreciate you for that. Anifa, we've gotten chances to talk individually about like your challenges in your business and how like, you almost felt like giving up, and like your perseverance has been so rewarded. And like the message that echoes out to other Black women and Black men and, Black people in the industry, to just say like, it might be hard, but persevere. And like, there's a community out there who's willing to like help you and push you and propel you and support you. And like, just watching you has been such a lesson to me. And like, I'm so grateful. Antoine, you already know. You're such an inspiration to me. Your voice is so authentic, and we don't have a lot of Black critics at all, let alone like ones who understand art. You're not just understanding fashion. You worked on so many different axes in our industry that you understand art, you understand merchandising, you understand it from the brand, you understand it from an entrepreneur's seat. Like, that's the kind of, first of all, white counterparts don't even have that much rounded experience as critics, but you also know about European art, and you're able to explain those nuances to us in a language that we can understand. And like, your platform is so important because not only are you analyzing our Black things, but you're analyzing mainstream things from our perspective and asking the questions that some of us are thinking but can't ask. And I'm really grateful for that. And you're such a champion of other Black creatives. You're always sharing and amplifying on your platform. And like, I aspire to be more like you guys every day in certain ways. And, I'm just so glad that I know you guys and know that I support you. And, I stand you guys.
Yeah, they said it all, man. Come on. Shelby, oh my God.
Okay, so make us cry, Shelby.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I think
Anifa, can we just say Anifa is shipping out on the 30th and I'm pressed? That's it. I'm not going to say anything else. That's it.
I think even what you said was like me, like just being very well versed in like many different things. It comes from a space of not ever wanting a white person in this industry to tell me I don't know what I'm doing when I apply for a job. Or I got a business degree and I got an art degree, so you can tell me, oh, I needed one or the other. I got both. Like I had to work so hard at diversifying my talents just so that I could have a space in the room, just so that I have a voice. Like, and that comes from a place of not being seen. So like for you to like bring that up, like that makes me emotional because like I work so hard to just be seen, and you see me and you guys see me, and I love that.
Definitely, I think if anybody's watching, this industry can be hard, but not to get stuck on that word no, because I know everyone has been told no. We just said that, you know.
Yeah.
Just not to be stuck on that word, because I'm sure you guys get all these questions about how I can make it in the industry, how can I do this, but it's really like just don't become discouraged because you're gonna hear so many no's before you hear a yes. I just wanted to say that for anybody who's watching, and we didn't really go into how we got into the industry, but just to let everyone know, like, don't feel discouraged if you're not there yet.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
So my last question for you guys is, what's next?
For me, definitely taking the resources offline. I'm working on a book so that it can be documented in a permanent place, right? So that people can cite and source it, and
that's great.
There, free. And of course, I'm going to be reaching out to all of you very soon in regards to that. But for me, that's really what's next, trying to like get our history documented in a like concrete way so no one can ever say they didn't know or they can't find it. And also just continuing to network across and network laterally with people like you in the industry and have conversations and really talk about like how can we collaborate and do our own thing. This is something that Antoine encouraged me to do, really figure out how we can build our own thing instead of trying to, always approach white institutions about partnering. So I really want to like move towards maybe curating some kinds of, fashion, Black fashion moment at museum or on our own at a Black institution. So that's what I'm working on, and I'm welcoming all who are watching and everyone who's in this chat to start dialogue with me. If there's anything you guys are working on that I can help with, that's really what I'm trying to do in this next phase.
What's next for me is I have kind of said to myself I will be publishing at least 2 features from a Black designer every week, and not just doing listicles. We are doing the listicles because I still work for a publication that needs to click, but making sure that I put my money where my mouth is. Really at least 2. Like we're trying to, obviously we can't do every day because the bandwidth, but 2 or more features from a Black designer, and making sure that they are heard in print and they are seen, and then also just championing them from other publications. When the Forbes thing happened, I got on the phone with the Forbes editor and let her know why this was disrespectful. So I don't mind championing for other designers at other publications, making sure that everything is seen and we are heard. So that's what's next for me.
That's cool. I just want to spend more time helping emerging designers and just teaching what I can, being a resource, and also expanding into different sectors. Like technology is something that has been new to Anifa, and we plan on doing more things in technology, and also like home, bridal, and also shapewear.
Well, I think those are all really great things for us to have and to continue to have. So those are all really great things to hear. I think for myself, it's really just getting Black Fashion Fair off the ground, up and running, and then using all you guys as support, because you guys have always supported me. But I really want to thank you guys for having this chat with me, for having this chat for SHOWstudio, and really just loving on each other. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Shelby? we're looking forward to your book, Anifa.
I
We're
know.
looking forward to seeing
yes.
a real big show because you deserve
Yes.
it.
Oh yeah, Anifa,
We're always gonna support you.
Anifa, I need your show like Christopher John Rogers show. Like it
Yes,
was.
yes.
Oh my gosh,
Everybody
that's
there, it was like
so.
a family reunion. Oh,
Woo,
oh,
gorgeous
man.
show.
Christopher John Rogers show was
I left
a
with
moment.
tears in my eyes. I was like a man from the South. Like it was just beautiful.
Yes.
And even Fee Noel's show was like a family reunion. It was like all the
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it was so beautiful, so
That was
beautiful.
beautiful.
We're gonna all be there.
Yeah, hopefully when this whole thing is over, we can link up, have a big old party.
Yes.
Yes. Are we still on?